All right, so today we're going to talk about 7-2 multiplying polynomials. And one of the things I want to remind you about is remember when we are multiplying two terms with the same base, our exponent rule says that we add those exponents. Okay, and that's going to help us a lot in this section. So first thing we're going to look at is multiplying a monomial and a trinomial. So remember, a monomial has one term and a trinomial has three. So we have an example of this, negative 4x squared times the quantity x squared plus 3x minus 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the distributive property to multiply these. So we have negative 4x squared times x squared. And I'm going to write this out. This is not something you need to do, but just so that way we can see it, I want you guys to write this down for your notes. Then we're going to do negative 4x squared times 3x. And then we're going to do lastly negative 4x squared times negative 4. And now we're going to multiply it like we did with our exponent rule assignment. So negative 4 times 1 is just negative 4. X squared times x squared, we add those exponents, and 2 plus 2 is 4. Negative 4x squared times 3x. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. And then x squared times x to the first would give us x cubed. And then negative 4x squared times negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive 16 x squared. And that is our simplified expression. Okay. All right, so the next type of multiplying polynomials we're going to look at is multiplying two binomials. We have three different methods in which we can do this. The first one is multiplying using a table. So if we want to multiply x plus 5 times the binomial x plus 8, we're going to make a table where we fill in the first binomial on the left and then the second binomial on the top. So then in each box, so looking at this first box, we're going to multiply what comes in. So x times x, well, that would be x squared. X times 8 is 8x. And then on the bottom row, we're going to do 5 times x, which gives us 5x. And then lastly, we're going to do 5 times 8, which is 40. Okay. And now we're going to combine like terms. So we have x squared. Then we have 8x plus 5x, which is 13x, plus 40. And that is our simplified expression. Okay. So the next method we can use is using the distributive property. So we have 2x plus 4 times the quantity x minus 5. So we're going to break this apart, and we're going to distribute the 2x to both terms. So 2x times the quantity x minus 5. And then we're going to distribute the 4 to both terms. So plus 4 times the quantity x minus 5. Okay. So now distribute. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 5 is a negative 10x. And then distribute to the second binomial. 4 times x is 4x. And 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Combine like terms in the center. We have 2x squared minus 6x minus 20. And that's our simplified expression. So rather than using the distributive property, a lot of times we multiply binomials with FOIL. So FOIL is an acronym we use to represent first, outside, inside, and last. Okay. So this is referring to each of these binomials. So if we look at this first example, 3x minus 7 times the quantity 2x plus 5. I'm going to write out FOIL so that way we can see what we're multiplying here. So the first represents the first term in each binomial. So 3x times 2x. And then we're going to do our outside. So 3x times 5 plus the inside two terms, which would be negative 7 and 2x. And then multiply our last two terms. So negative 7 and 5. And we're going to add each of these together. So if we simplify this, 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times 5 is 15x. Negative 7 times 2x is a negative 14x. And negative 7 times 5 is a negative 35. Combine like terms. So we have 6x squared. 15x minus 14x is a positive 1x minus 35. All right, so I want you to try this next one. 4x plus 5 times the quantity x minus 9. All right, so now we're going to look at multiplying a trinomial and a binomial using a table. So I already set this up for you. We're doing 3x plus 4 times the quantity x squared plus 2x minus 1. So line up your boxes. So this first box, we're doing 3x times x squared, which gives us 3x cubed. Now we're doing 3x times 2x, which is 6x squared. 3x times negative 1 is a negative 3x. And then move to your bottom row. So now we're doing 4 times x squared, which is 4x squared. 4 times 2x is a positive 8x. And 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. And then remember to finish this off, we want to combine like terms. One thing that you can notice is a lot of times, if there's no missing terms in your original, your like terms will always show up in the diagonals. So we have 3x cubed. 6x squared plus 4x squared is 10x squared. Negative 3x plus 8x is positive 5x. And then minus 4. All right, so now we're going to look at multiplying a trinomial and a binomial by distribution. So there's two ways you can do this. You could break this apart to say 2x squared times the quantity 3x squared plus 8x minus 1 minus 4 times the quantity 3x squared plus 8x minus 1. Or you can kind of think about it as like a long FOIL. So you're doing 2x squared times every term in the trinomial, and then negative 4 times every term in the trinomial. Okay, so for this one, we're just going to continue with the distribution. So 2x squared times 3x squared is 6x to the 4th. 2x squared times 8x is 16x cubed. 2x squared times negative 1 is negative 2x squared. And now we're going to distribute the negative 4. So negative 4 times 3x squared is a negative 12x squared. Negative 4 times 8x is negative 32x. And negative 4 times negative 1 is a positive 4. Combine like terms. So we have 6x to the 4th plus 16x cubed minus 14x squared. Oops. Well, I write cubed here. Sorry about that. And then minus 32x plus 4. All right, lastly, we can use this idea of multiplying polynomials to find the area of any shape. So here we're going to look at finding the area of the shaded region. So we have two rectangles. So remember, to find the area of a rectangle, we're doing base times height. And here I'm going to break this apart into two different rectangles. So we're going to look at the area of the big rectangle, and then we're going to subtract the area of the small rectangle. Okay. So let's start off with just finding the area of the big rectangle. So this would be x squared plus 3 times 4x minus 1. Okay. So let's FOIL this. X squared times 4x is 4x cubed. X squared times negative 1 is a negative x squared. 3 times 4x is a positive 12x. And 3 times negative 1 is a negative 3. There are no like terms, so this is just the area of our big rectangle. So now let's find the area of our small rectangle. So the inside, we have x times x plus 2. So we can just distribute this because it's a monomial times a binomial. X times x is x squared, and x times 2 is 2x. All right, so now we're going to subtract. So remember, when we subtract polynomials, we have to be careful that we distribute our negative. So I'm going to write this out to avoid any mistakes, which is what I highly recommend you do. I'm going to put a 1 in front of this parenthesis, and I'm going to distribute. So we have 4x cubed minus x squared plus 12x minus 3 minus x squared minus 2x. And then we can combine like terms. So negative x squared minus x squared is a negative 2x squared. And 12x minus 2x is a positive 10x. Oops. And then minus 3. So that is our area of the shaded region.